Yo guys, I'm Yellow, the Norwegian hardcore PC gamer, and today there will be a little bit more echo around me because I have been able to put together the new case for the old PC. That might sound strange, but believe me, the old wreck I had, it took a lot of space, and it was way more noisy than this one, so I'm pretty happy about that upgrade. Now, regarding things, when it comes down to upgrade and stuff that consumes a lot of time and etc., all that sort of stuff, companies tend to be terrible, so I figured I should put out a couple of words there and maybe teach the few of you out there that don't know that Gaben had an AMA on Reddit. Basically what he told us that we now know for sure, it's basically fact since he is not just the CEO of the company, Valve, but, yeah, he had been in the business for over 20 years, so I'm going to take his word for how things work. Now, from the get-go, we must understand that Valve as a company works fundamentally differently versus many other companies. It seems like people have a lot more freedom, and I think it's supposed to be passion-based, which makes a lot of sense when you think about how good the end product could become. After all, most of the Valve games that have ever been released are just about second to bug-free, especially the latter games that have been released. And knowing that kind of a track record going along with the quality of exactly how good the game is on its own, you can see that there's obviously something in this formula that works. But when it comes down to what they recently said, and CSGO and the Source 2 engine, and a little bit about the mentality behind the man, and why games aren't really moving as fast as they might have, I think this is all because of how Valve is run. It's being run like they are. It doesn't really aim too much to please themselves with product releases as much as it's to try and maintain a steady, I guess you could say, base level of where they're at, but it's more about fixing stuff regarding I was gonna say stuff that is a bit more niche, but that doesn't really serve it justice of what Valve is doing. But anyways, it seems that most of the stuff that they want to do is rooted in just comfort, along with maintaining some sort of relationship with what they already have instead of producing more stuff. And thus, because of how they're already enormous as a company, they can do whatever the hell they want. Now, along with knowing that kind of mindset, or just about, it seems like they're coming from that angle, Valve as a company, and the people that manage anything in there, if anybody does. Not that we would ever know. Yeah, it honestly looks like there is more passion in CSGO than there has ever been, and I honestly personally think it's because of how the game is a little bit more internally consistent by a community basis. And it can be explained as much as with there are less moron people that are just greedy and they act upon money more than acting upon the game, which is what Counter-Strike is about. It's about the competition, it's about the metagame evolving, which happens just about every single day, even though, again, it's obviously now starting to slow down a bit because there aren't that many more brand new things to learn about CS. Maybe like one or two things, but aside from that, it's more on a map basis of what people can engineer forth with what we already know of how the game worked. And so knowing this, it's very nice to know that now I think there's like four or like three, let's say, last time we got a number of how many people were working on CS was maybe 2 years ago. We knew that there was like 8 or 10 people. Now it's like 3-4 times more. Gaben said in this AMA that there was 25 to 30 people working on the game, or actually I think he said like 20 to 30. So I'm just gonna say 25 because that seemed to be the current average. That could go up if more people within the company are more interested in the game, or it could go down if they just don't enjoy it. I mean, it's honestly up to the person if you truly want to push something out to have a starter mentality. If you're ever going to do anything with a truly competitive and very aggressive game, Counter-Strike is fairly spoken one of those types of games. You have deathmatch in general, the type of personality that are interested in running out and shooting a lot of people. While it's a game, that person seems to be a little bit more edgy, and when you're just a regular fan of the game, you might be even more edgy. You might write in the comment sections anyway, or some of the most dumb stuff ever. And that could be because you don't know, or because you never learned something, or because you're an asshole. All things which naturally occur, and everybody have done it, probably me as well. But in the end of the day, regardless of how the nature of the beast works in this avenue. What we do know for a fact is that there is a steady workload and workflow done in the background, in the back of CSGO, and that is good to know, and especially when we learn the secondary, or actually it's like two facts in one, but Valve is currently working on the Source 2.0 engine, and I wanted to make a video like one day ago, so that this channel is not fucking starting to dust up, but basically talking about how Valve, it's fucking annoying that they are not saying a damn fucking thing about the Source engine, where it's going, is it gonna get upgraded, what is going on, and in combination with the lay of the land per se, it makes a lot of sense for them to not rush things in this sense, but it honestly looks like, and this is by word from Gabe Newell himself, it doesn't look like they give a damn about what is happening on the market. While I, on one hand, think that is good, on the other hand, I think it's still fucking annoying to know that I have 8 CPU cores and a GPU that are not being utilized to a damn hell fucking degree versus what it could, alright? The old, very shitty by nowadays, what is normal nowadays, my old CPU, the Bulldozer FX8350, overclocked to 4.7 gigahertz, rock stable, it's running in the background right now, and the new case is making everything whisper quiet, as far as I'm concerned, versus the previous case I had. Anyways, the theme of the stuff here is that when you have that much potential and actual raw physical performance that you can drain out of a computer rig, when you then sit there and don't do anything, and you don't say anything, and you're doing it to a different game on the side, obviously I'm gonna get pissed. Obviously most people are gonna get pissed, and even more so I'm gonna get frustrated, because I know that Valve in their games need more performance. So let me explain what I mean, and then I'll move over to two more things, just to wrap some stuff up so I don't derail completely. But, so basically, CSGO is a very cheating-intensive game. There are a lot of children and absolute retards that think that it's a smart thing to cheat in that game. That means that Valve have to invest performance into the anti-cheat system, and that pulls down the frame rate because the game engine can only do so much internally, and that's along with VAC obviously, or whatever else third-party solution that you decide to put in order to make it so that it's more difficult to cheat. Personally, I would rather have it be a third-party type software, and I would enjoy it if it could be thoroughly sponsored and supported by Valve, for example. What if Face It Valve and ESEA went and collaborated and trying to make a really, really good, really strong anti-cheat type system? That way we wouldn't see every now and then a random fucking guy be ultra fucking uber sick with his aim doing jack shit in a game in which, yeah, we're just supposed to believe that you can do something one day and you can't do something another day, and you don't do it on LAN at fucking all. Yeah, just, it doesn't really hang, just it's not internally consistent. It just doesn't really work in that sense. But anyways, it's good thus at least to know that because of this AMA, that while this is a reality that we have to deal with, and it's one of the primary reasons, aside from the game looking better every single day, one of the primary reasons for why the frame rate of CS is going down, it's good to know that Valve is at least trying to, and they are consistently working on the Source 2 engine. And they stated two things, and I guess this wraps up what I just said. I'm one of those people, people that tend to lay out the land and then I wrap everything up. So with a flick of a finger, everything is done. This is it there, really. So in this AMA, Gaben talked about how they not only want all of their games to run on the Source 2 engine, but they want it to be open and free so everybody can use it free of charge. And that means that the entire gaming industry is most likely going to not just flourish, but there will be a lot more new potential things that are going to happen in the gaming realm. And that includes any games that are running poorly. Then again, I'm going to assume that this is Gaben implying that eventually every single Source game that they have is going to be upgraded, and that is going to be interesting and cool, and it's most likely going to give us the next era performance that we are looking for. But for now though, we have to literally patch up the fucking broken body and fucking arms ripped apart, the torso thingamajig that is performance nowadays, because Zen is being going to be released just about, I think it was like February, late February or late March or something, a very early March. I could be completely wrong on that, but some sources that were fairly reliable were recently leaked, and I took a look at some people talking about it. Can't even remember the fucking date, but the point is that when those components are going to be released, the RyZen parts and the graphics cards, but that's going to happen way later this year. But anyways, when that CPU stuff is going to be released by AMD, everything on the market regarding your performance and my performance, we can buy more, basically. And what I mean by more is something that some of you guys might have never experienced because you're so young, and the previous generation leap, per se, it has happened fucking how many years ago? Like 6 years ago? It's fucking insane. But anyways, so basically how it goes down is that AMD or Intel finally are able to churn out a highly advanced, groundbreaking product, which basically makes it so that your games are not getting 110 FPS anymore. They're now getting 210 maybe. That's a bit extreme, I know. Most likely you'd only get like 50 more frames per second by generation, and both companies try and compete and release new parts around each other until finally one gets so far ahead it's looking grim for the other one. And that's the risk and danger of markets becoming unstable. When one brand is literally so big, they can not even, like, they don't even need to progress in order to keep dominance, earn a lot of money by selling products and all that bullshit, in which they're essentially, because of how they're not making something better, so to speak, robbing us for money and performance, combined, because they aren't, making new stuff that is actually a lot better. Then we just gotta wait until something lucky, happy, crazy, awesome happens. And that is what has happened currently with AMD. I do believe it might not be exactly what I'm saying right now, but it's looking very similar to what I'm saying, alright? So let me just break it to you guys. So, with the PlayStation 4 or Pro or whatever the hell you want to say, and the acquisition, that's the right word for it, of ATI, AMD was able to not only get the potential of creating a product that Intel had no real chance of creating, but they were able to troubleshoot and develop themselves in an area and an angle that is not normal, and that is to get very, very efficient power consumption, and I'm also going to guess clean power, and that's aside from the system getting an efficiency type scenario that is a little bit different. You see, it's actually kind of incredible when the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Plus, or whatever the fuck it's called right now, have been released. The matter of fact that they're so tiny and they're actually able to perform up to par, and they're somewhat modern. It's an 8-core APU type chip inside there, and that's disregarding the fucking power supply. Like, as soon as I saw the PlayStation 4, I was like, wow, AMD, you really fucking put together some hardware here that can churn out frames, and it's doing it by being relatively cool despite its very compact and very tiny size. And that's aside from the GPU and CPU being in one small die. Sharing memory, of course, that's not the most efficient way of doing things. And that's aside from the matter of fact that splitting the CPU and GPU will most likely, until the dawn of time, or I meant to say until the end of days, there we go, is most likely going to be better than an APU solution. But this entire thing going down have taught AMD how to bring something on the table that is probably maybe like 1 or 2 entire generations of hardware ahead of what Intel is currently releasing, and that's at least gonna be my like semi-accurate theory of why every single thing that AMD now have released, that, or rather showcased about the Ryzen architecture and that sort of stuff, that they are going to release. They're showcasing that this sort of stuff, it's so much, like, it's using so much less wattage per, or like when you take an AMD component and compare it to like an Intel. So instead of being like 125 or 145 watts, it's going to be 95 or 75 or 65 or whatever the hell instead, which is a huge leap down, in power consumption, and thus heat that is accumulating in your rig, and thus, it's just better overall. And it also gives AMD a bigger and better room for them to, in fact, push their hardware further. And that's aside from what they're implementing, in which they are going to implement automatic overclocking. So this literally means that now when you're buying a CPU cooler, a good cooling system for your rig in general, something that I planned to do like 1 year ago, but I finally got to do it, and now my Corsair and Corsair cooler here, rig and cooler, with some very nice fans, fans. They're keeping my rig incredibly cool. That is literally going to extend the performance of the new AMD gear that is going to be released this year, in which I'm incredibly excited. And even more so with their fucking like neural network crap inside. Hopefully it will be able to optimize the games that we're going to play even more so that, for example, I won't be able to get to enjoy Pleasant Valley in H1Z1 at fucking 60 FPS, in which my graphics card is at like 70% load, and my 2-3 CPU cores are at best at 40% load. I mean, that's just bullshit, really. I could boot up Call of Duty Ghosts on PC, get 30 FPS, and my PC would be on fire, because that game is so fucking broken, poorly optimized. It's disgusting down to the core of the companies producing Call of Duty Ghosts. But that's a different game for a different time. I guess I'm basically wrapping up here. There's nothing else to mention. There's been so much new data on the table. We know that things are happening. We haven't even gotten a time-esque ballpark, but they're going to happen, and that's literally what I wanted. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. If it's going to take Valve 1 year or maybe 2 years for them to produce a graphics engine that is going to be future-proof 5 or 10 or 15 years in the future, I'm fucking down, dude. Like, and especially with AMD here, making it so that we don't have to wait that long for our games to not be stuck at 30 FPS, 60 FPS, 150 FPS, so we can get back to 60 FPS, 200 FPS, 500 FPS, which was where we were at when CSGO was actually getting popular, right? That's the days I come from, you know? I enjoyed playing fucking Nuke from T-Side, the old one, getting 2, 3, 400 FPS. 200, if I got that, it was 280, you know? So there's obviously a lot of stuff here to be cheerful for, a lot of stuff that we gotta save our money for so we can upgrade. Me personally, I gotta save up for a new RAM, a new motherboard, and obviously one of those dank new AMD processors that are going to be released eventually, so I'm really waiting for that. That's gonna be sexy. And aside from that, we are literally screwed until Valve actually releases something. So isn't that joyful? At least we're all screwed together. That's what I want to finish this video with. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy this little informative rant video about the markets, the lay of the land, Source 2 engine, anti-cheating, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to subscribe to me, or if you want to get better at CS or shooter type games, you should probably subscribe. And if you want to support my endeavors on the internet, become a Patreon maybe, at least you get something back for supporting me as well. So there's that. That's about it. Have a nice day, and don't get beastified when you play.